Hi, I'm Judy Litt, and I'm very excited to bring you today's Yin Yoga practice. First, you may need a few props for this class. I highly suggest some sort of blanket so you can pad your knees. There's a few things we're going to do that are challenging for knees. That's that. We call them yoga blankets now. I got them in Mexico literally decades ago. You may want a couple of blocks as well. And I invite you to put your yoga blanket off to the side. Take a block, go ahead and sit on it. And I actually suggest that you come facing the short end of your mat. I'm starting out facing the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Go ahead and bring the soles of your feet together and let your hips open out wide. Sitting on the yoga block just makes it a little easier, especially if you have very tight hips. It helps just support your hamstrings. It makes sure your hips aren't like this. That's another thing you can do when you have tight if your knees are like this because your hips are tight. You can take yoga blocks and put them under your knees. Now, as far as the positioning of your feet, totally up to you. You can take them really close into your body if that feels good to you, and you're going to feel that really strongly along your inner thighs, which is a place we generally don't get into enough. But that may feel a little intense for you, so you can go ahead and bring out your feet however far in front of you feels right to you. When you bring your feet out more, you may feel this more in your hamstrings. You're still going to feel it in your inner thighs, but you may feel it a bit more in your hamstrings. So soles of the feet together, knees are opening out wide. Hopefully you're sitting up on something. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the position that I suggest you be in. Still sitting on my block, trying to sit on my block. Go ahead and just close your eyes. Maybe set an intention for this practice, and that may be letting go of any stress you've encountered today. It may be getting into your fascia after a hard workout so that you don't wake up achy the next morning. It may just be honoring your body, whatever feels right to you once again. But it always feels good to set an intention for our yoga practice, and it's not a bad idea to come back to it at the end. Now, as I said in the beginning, this is a fun practice. I had fun putting this together to you. This practice is based on Hamilton, which I was really obsessed with this summer. And so while you're sitting here, let go of that ramrod straight back and begin to let your back round. Begin to let your head drop down towards the floor. Breathe in and out through your nose. Setting aside any problems you've had today, any disappointments you've had today, and just really letting go. It gets really heavy. It begins to point down towards your mat. It's okay to let go. And for each pose we're in, and this pose is butterfly in case you were wondering, I'm going to give you a Hamilton quote to think about. I wish I could use the music. Unfortunately, I can't. That would be a major copyright violation. So in Butterfly, I invite you to think about, look at where you started, look at where you are now. And we are literally thinking about that in this pose. Notice where you're starting. And then I want you to notice where you end up. It's never the goal to get your body into a certain shape in Yin Yoga, but the goal is to go inside, to really be aware of what you're doing, to notice what's going on in your body. Notice if maybe you can begin to let go a little more. Maybe your knees are falling down closer to the mat. Yin Yoga has longer holds, and that's because we're trying to get into our fascia, and it takes at least a minute and a half to begin to get into that fascia. And the longer you hold, the deeper you go. And the deeper you go, the deeper you heal. Just letting time and gravity do its work. We're not trying to force anything. You'll probably also be feeling this in your lower back. We are flexing that low back, so pay attention to any sensation you have there. You want to feel something. We're trying to get to our edge where we do feel something, but you never want to feel pain. I say that over and over and over again because it's really important. A few more breaths here. And look at where you started. Look at where you are. Last breath. Go ahead and release your feet. Take the palms of your hand to your mat. Very gently and slowly begin to roll up one vertebrae at a time. Noticing if maybe you feel a sense of more spaciousness in your spine. And just take a couple of deep breaths. Take your hands underneath your knees and slowly and gently bring your knees together. Come on off of your block. Grab your blanket. This is where we're going to be patting our knees. And we are going to come to a tabletop position. Take your right knee and put it onto your blanket. I'm going to move my blocks up there. You can always put your hands on the blocks to make this just a little bit easier. Take your left leg and bring the sole of that foot all the way up. So we're in a low lunge. And like I said, if you'd like, put the blocks under your hands. And when we're starting out, we're prioritizing a straight back. And as we get more deep into this pose, we can begin to let go a little bit. This is a great pose to counteract all that sitting we do all day long. And if you're a runner, it's a great pose to get into your hip flexor, which, even if you're not a runner, they tend to be tight on most people. Now you can stay right here. You can take both hands to the inside of your left foot, and you can stay up here. And if you'd like to, you can come down to your elbows today I'm not going to do that because I really want to focus on stretching my hip flexor. I'll admit this is dragon pose, and I'll admit this is lizard pose. It's something I avoided for a long time because it made me kind of uncomfortable. And then I realized one day that the things that make us feel uncomfortable, those are usually the things that we need to do. And our next Hamilton quote is, "When you got skin in the game, you stay in the game. But you don't get a win unless you stay in the game." So when I was looking for quotes from Hamilton, I picked a lot of the quotes that I just loved. And then as I was putting this practice together, I realized how perfect they were for Yin Yoga. They were really good. They're all about staying in it. Going deeper, being patient. And like I said, if you don't stay in these poses for at the very least 90 seconds, you're not going to see much of a benefit. You'll see benefit, but you're not going to get out of Yin Yoga probably what you're hoping to get, and that is strengthening our fascia, increasing our range of motion on the physical level. There are many more benefits. Okay, very slowly begin to press through your front foot and bring your glutes back so you're in a half split position, straightening that left leg. Just a really quick little counter pose, because lizard can be very intense for a lot of us. And go ahead, bend that knee, bring that one to your blanket, and step your right foot forward. And just start out in a low lunge. Back is straight. Trying to keep your hips as straight as possible. When you got skin in the game, you stay in the game. But when you don't get a win, you don't get a win unless you stay in the game. Maybe take both hands to the inside of that front foot. Again, feel free to have your hands on your blocks. Feel free to come down to your forearms. Feel free to stay upright like I am today. How we feel changes day to day. I often come down to my forearms in lizard, but it just doesn't feel like what I need today. And only you can tell what you need today. Really bring your attention to that hip flexor right here, where the top of your thigh meets your pelvis. Just take your attention there. That's where we're getting the stretch. You're probably feeling it in other areas of your leg, but that's the target area. And the more we bring attention to it, again, the deeper we go. Once again, begin to press into that front foot, press into those palms. Bring your hips so that they're right over your knees. Extend that front leg. You may need to wiggle it forward a little bit. Just a short little counter stretch. Take a breath here. Let that go. I'm going to move my blanket down just a little bit. You can have your knees on the blanket. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and set it aside. You can be in tabletop position, or you can be padding your knees with that blanket. You might want to have your 2 blocks at the top of your mat. Basically, we're going to walk our hands out so that we're stretching our upper body while keeping our hips over our knees. And you can feel free to put your hands on a block. That will make it feel easier. This is a really nice chest opener, shoulder stretch, and you can get into your arms. They're going to shake a little bit. So let's go ahead and just slowly, keeping your hips where they are, begin to walk your hands down. You can also grab one of those blocks and bring your forehead down on it. And that can feel really, really nice. Maybe wiggle your head a little side to side. Just go ahead and bend it towards one side and bend it to the other side. Kind of pushing your mat away with your hands while keeping your body still. And our Hamilton quote in this pose is talk less, smile more, which might just be for me more than you guys. But it actually is really appropriate. I think a lot of people find this position a little challenging. Anytime we smile in a challenging pose, or in a challenging workout, challenging run, we make it feel a little easier. When you smile, your brain doesn't really know whether or not you mean it or you're faking it. So that's the whole fake it till you make it. Now this is actually quite different than what this means in the play. In the play, it's Burr talking, and he's basically saying, don't take a stand. See which way the wind's going to blow. Notice if you're tensing up anywhere in your body. Maybe in your glutes, maybe in your legs. Your arms are going to be a little tense, obviously. But if you're tensing up in your legs, just see if you can relax them. Talk less, smile more. And then begin to really press into the palms of your hands. Bring yourself forward a little bit, and then walking your hands back towards your body. And let's just briefly come and bring our hips all the way back to our heels. Just a little letting that go, pausing, noticing how you feel. And then let your legs come out to one side and stretching them straight out in front of you. If you have tight hamstrings, you can grab a block. You can sit on a block. You can grab that blanket. You can sit on that blanket. You can also bend your knees. I've been doing that more and more lately because I do have one hamstring that's a little bit tight. And then start sitting up straight. Take your hands palm up by the sides of your thigh, and then just let that go. Let your head again be very heavy. Let your back begin to round. Our Hamilton quote in this pose, caterpillar, is wait for it. which of course could have a few meanings. Waiting for that transformation. I talked in a video not too long ago about how butterflies need to get out of their cocoons on their own or they won't have become strong enough. So we have to work for that transformation. We have to be patient. It takes time. But it will happen. As we keep showing up every day, practicing, we are transforming. If you've ever lost a fair amount of weight, and I have, as you're losing it, you often don't really notice it in the mirror. And some of that is just you don't notice it. A few pounds, you may not notice it. Although I'm very short, so you can really notice just a little bit of weight on me. But if you take photos every 5 pounds, every 10 pounds, and you look back through them after you've had your transformation, it can be pretty darn amazing. I know the first couple of times I lost weight, I didn't do that, and I really regret not doing that. And so, coming back to our Hamilton quote, wait for it, it can come back to Yin Yoga as well. Waiting in those long holds. Especially a pose like this, for a lot of us it feels good, it doesn't feel challenging. You may be thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I sitting here so long? Well, one reason is the longer you hold, the deeper you're going, and the more transformation you are working. Really begin to let go. Caterpillar is a very soothing asana for our parasympathetic nervous system. It helps us to make that switch from fight or flight into rest and digest, which is something we all could use more of these days. Notice where your shoulders are. Breathe into that space. Let it go. Go ahead and bring the palms of your hands to your mat. Very slowly begin to unroll your spine again. Noticing again, if you feel a little bit more space in your spine, more space in your whole posterior chain, as we call it, your whole backside. Go ahead and scooch forward a little bit. Take my mat, put it up here, bring the soles of your feet to your mat. And begin to very slowly take yourself so that your back is on the mat, head comes down, Adjust whatever needs to be adjusted. And bend one knee into your chest. Reach down wherever you can grab, your foot, your shin, even a little piece down here, wherever you can grab. Just go ahead and grab that area. Bending your knee. Foot is flexed, pointing up towards the ceiling, knees bent. Then go ahead and bend the other leg in, reach down. This is happy baby. I know this pose makes me feel happy. If this feels too intense for you, you can always do one leg at a time. This is a very nice hip stretch. It's going to get into your hamstrings, your lower legs. Really nice lower leg stretch. And our last Hamilton quote is, look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. I love that quote. I know how challenging the past year has been. But if you are alive, you are lucky. So many lost their lives. And even if you've struggled, and I get it, if you've lost loved ones, we are lucky to be here. When you look around and you see sunshine, or you see a beloved pet, a blue sky, it's easy to focus on the bad things. It's so easy. But when we focus on all the great things we have, we get even more great things. And in this pose, I'm thinking of the Yama Aparigraha. I may be butchering that. Often defined as not being greedy, but can also be thought of as being appreciative for the abundance we do have. When we appreciate what we have, we feel more fulfilled. We realize that there is enough for everybody, and we will feel more generous. I've written a whole blog post about the yamas. I will try to remember to link that up below this video description. My stomach is beginning to grumble, which is telling me that I have switched into that parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, release one leg, bring that foot back to the mat, release the other leg, and then just roll on over to your side. Take a couple breaths here. And if you remember the intention that you set at the beginning of this practice, bring your attention back to that intention. One of my suggestions was to go deeply inside. And then slowly begin to press yourself up into a seated position. Maybe grab your blanket or a block. Go ahead and sit on that. And just close your eyes as we briefly close out this practice. So there's a couple of themes in Hamilton that I also wanted to touch on briefly before I let you go. One is to stand up for what you believe in, which is basically the opposite of talk less, smile more. And of course, there's the other famous quote that I really wanted to work into this practice, but I knew it was going to make it too long, which is, if you stand for nothing, what will you fall for? And the other theme that's woven throughout Hamilton and into this practice is to appreciate what you do have. It's so easy to get caught up in that game of wanting more, being envious of our neighbor, being envious of our friends. There really is enough to go around for everyone, and when we appreciate what we have, we are happy, we are satisfied, and we don't feel the need to be constantly filling a void. Go ahead and bring your hands together at heart center, bowing your head slightly. Begin to rub your hands together, coming to stillness. Remember to go inside today, because there is always peace and happiness waiting for you there. Very slowly blink your eyes open, take in your floor. Go ahead and raise your head. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this practice today. I had fun putting it together for you. And if you did, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Go ahead and tell all your friends about it if you enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.